Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful. Thanks to moderators and also the organizers of this useful and productive conference. As you see, the lecture is entitled as History Textbook in Iran, a continuous effort for recognizing and presenting identity in the new world. So I should read at the introduction, the article will be shared, you can see. In the introduction I have mentioned something about the importance of the textbook, and I have mentioned the sentence from Jan Mick, famous book researcher, and he said that out of 18 research projects, in 15 researchers it was found that the textbooks are very important. We are learning outcomes, and only in the 13 researchers it was found that the role of the teacher is also important. So I did the other part of my introduction, and then I moved to the last part of it. I will say that in this article I'm going to say after an overview of various content for compiling history textbooks in Iran and introducing contents of the history textbooks in the schools. I want to try to examine the characteristics and the challenge of history textbooks in Iranian schools in general view, and then report some efforts to evaluate and optimize it. And at the end, I should refer to the issue and the problem of identity and its reflection in the evaluation of history textbooks in Islamic Republic of Iran. In the first part, I have mentioned about 8 official centers for compiling textbooks in Iran. So it's not enough time to explain the main mission and the main approach of these different 8 official centers. It was very, very important, but they are not only for the school, but also for the university, and the first row it relates to the schools. So it's my first table, it's very important. And after it, I have moved to the content, the list of contents and history textbook in Iranian school. In Iranian school, we have 3 parts. The first one is elementary school, the second is the first secondary school, and then the second secondary school. In the elementary school, at the 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade, in the course of social studies, and the textbook is social studies, we have in the 4th, these lessons relates to the history, lesson 2, 8, 11, and 2, and the first columns contain the topics, and also in the last comments you can see the pages which is specialized for these lessons. And the second one is the 5th school, and then after it the 3rd one, and the 6th one. So it's my table number 2, which shows for us the historical topics in elementary school. And then in the first secondary school, we don't have a single course for history, but also it is in the social studies. The textbook is social studies, and in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, we have different lessons and different topics related to different issues of Iranian history and Iranian neighbor, and also the other part of the world, and the number of pages as mentioned in the last column. and after it, in the table number 4, you can see the list of the single books relate to history. So what it differs for different majors, different special fields of history, of studies in the secondary school. For, as you see, human science in the 10th grade, in the Islamic sciences and teaching in the 10th grade, for the majors like mathematics, experimental science, and technical and professional and art at 11th grade, for human science 11th grade, for Islamic science 11th grade, and for in 12th grade only for human sciences and Islamic sciences. And after it, you can see the topics of the books and also the number of pages. You can see here the number of the pages. So it's the table number 4. This is the cover of, for example, of 2 books. I have bring by myself 2 books as a sample, and the cover is books. So after it, I want and going to the first part of my article, which relates to characteristics and challenges of history textbook Iranian schools. I have mentioned here also about, I think, 8 features. The first one, having an experience of more than a century and a half in the field of compiling textbooks. Very, very important. The second one is adhering to the standards related to the format and components, and also diversifying the formats and providing historical information. The history textbook in Iran have favorable condition in terms of book cut and page layout and page color variety, and in addition the use of photos, drawings, diagrams, maps, as well as paying attention to petroglyphs, coins, and objects in museum, as well as providing optional additional explanations, sample questions, and suggesting side activities have given the textbook a special effect and credibility. The third one is attractive practice papers at the end of the textbook in elementary grades and the first grades of the first secondary stages, 7 to 9, which in addition to attractive photographs and designs have various tables and diagrams to complete by students. The fourth one is situability of the language, of the text with the level of understanding of students. Simplifying complex historical concepts and being based on chronological method, and it doesn't mean that the chemical method is neglected. And seventh is accompanying historical information with historical analysis and effort to teach the way of thinking about historical issues. And the last one is much effort to show relation between historical topics and today's need. And also here you can see the cover of the book for 12th grade. But along with these features, we have 2 main challenges. The first one is the tendency of the most history teachers to use behaviorist teaching method, which is result-oriented, compared with the structuralist teaching method, which is process-oriented, oriented. In the behaviorist method, the text has a very special importance, and so the smallest bugs or problems in the text or the inability of the teachers to teach it quickly leads to the students' aversion to the textbook and finally to the decrease of their interest in the history course. And finally, the other challenge is teaching history by teachers whose specialty is not history. Or if their field is history, they have not learned how to teach history, the methods for teaching history. The other part, last part of my article refers to efforts to evaluate and optimize history education and history textbooks in Iran. First one is concluding researchers to identity challenges of history education, such as research I have mentioned, the research which is published as a book. The second one is translation of selected works on history education, and here also I have mentioned some samples, but there are only 2 examples. It should be very, very more than this. And the next one is holding several conferences to investigate the issue of history education, and now I can mention at least 6 conferences for this issue. The other one is publication of journal. We have 2 special journals in Iran for teaching history, and they contain some articles about the textbook. So one of them is named Growth of History Education, we name it in Persian Rosh. It has been published 80 issues, and the other one is it has 8 number of it, and both of them you can find the full text of the article free of any charge here. I forgot to say that the old textbook of the school in Iran, all of them, you can find all of them freely here in one of these. I have mentioned, I cannot find here, I have mentioned the internet address. You can find all of the books for schools, not only elementary and the first secondary and the second secondary school. You can all find, including the textbook of history, you can find it free of any charge here. And finally, yes, my last part is it's related and it shares an idea, and also brief and delete some part of it, and also I only read this part, that the issue of identity in Islamic countries, including Iran, is always in a confluence point between 3 types of identity: ancient national identity, religious, it means Islamic identity, and modern identity, which is usually influenced by the West, the modern identity. The history textbook in Iran, especially after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, has been reflected the efforts to recognize Iranian identity in a very changing world, and to balance between the 3 types of identities mentioned above, or to select one of them and put aside the other. The history textbook has always been a suitable tool for introducing the Iranian identity to students and helping them to introduce this identity globally. It's very important to note that due to the variety of tendencies and positions toward history types of identity, history textbook often change along with the change of governments in Iran, and therefore the time of stability of history textbook in Iran is low. Iranian authors of history textbook have a continuous effort to recognize Iranian identity and represent it And lastly, conclusion, and thanks for your listening. Thank you.
Большое спасибо вам, мистер Альвири. Коллеги, какие есть вопросы?
Yes,
Пожалуйста.
yes, Professor. In fact, what Indian history is tackling of communal history writing, that is Hindu and Muslim, this is, I think, one part of it. Whereas in India, they're trying to write a Hindu history. I see here you have some kind of an Islamic history being put forward, isn't it? Because what you said is Islamic history. I can understand history of Islam. But how is Islamic history scientific history? Or how Hindu history or Christian history or any religious history can be claimed as scientific history? History of Islam, yes, you should study. But Islamic history, that is something I would like to research.
It's a phrase in Iran, I accept that it differs, but also some people they use it, Islamic history, but by the meaning of the history of Islam. But also we have the other point of view here, it differs. Islamic history, it relates to the how from Islam point of view we can see to the history. For example, about the historical rules. We can find many certain rules, historical rules in Quran, and according to them we can analyze the history. Here we are in fact coming to the field of Islamic history, not the history of Islam. You know, it's a very, very important issue.
Очень спасибо. Коллеги, еще вопросы? Пожалуйста.
Уважаемые коллеги, я заметил, что вы работаете еще в государственных структурах и в курсе, что в Иране есть довольно-таки влиятельная армянская диаспора. И в армянских школах Тегерана, Исфахана проходят историю армянской апостольской церкви и историю Армении. За это я хочу поблагодарить вас за такое отношение к нашему народу. И хочу сказать, что и в том числе армянские культурные памятники, церкви восстанавливаются с помощью государства. Как вы думаете, в Иране есть опасения, что этим путем это может привести к такой сепаратистской идентичности у армянского народа и других народов? И в Иране на государственном уровне как относятся к этой проблеме? Спасибо.
All languages in Iran, they have their own textbook, history textbook and the other textbooks. So they are not, in fact, going to read the other book. No, the official book is for the majority of Iran, Muslim. But the Armenian and the other also Christian minority and Jewish minority, and the other, they have their own textbook. And I didn't speak about them. I am speaking about the formal and the official textbooks. They have their own, and they are free to read them and to study them, and it's for the majority, not
Все, да, большое спасибо.